If you have topics you would like to have us discuss on the Aging Well podcast, please click on the links in the episode description to send us a text or record your message or comments. We'd love to hear from you and how we can help you age well. If you benefit from the Aging Well podcast and would like to support the content financially, please click on the Support the Show link or support our affiliates and advertisers. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. I'm Jeff Armstrong here with Corbin Bruton. In this and the episodes that follow, we will share candid discussions on aging and hear from the experts. We are here to inform and encourage as we experience, aging. In this episode, we discuss the concept of positive aging, emphasizing the importance of a biomechanical psychosocial approach and highlighting key strategies for promoting optimal aging, including comprehensive health assessments, empowering seniors through preventative health programs, and fostering a positive mindset through strength-based assessments. We discuss the importance of successful positive aging programs and mental fitness, and provide insights into how adopting these strategies can lead to a fuller, happier life and to aging well.
Dr. Armstrong, we talk about aging well, right? Obviously, that's the name of our podcast. What is positive aging?
Well, according to Leora Bartour in a 2021 paper in Frontiers in Medicine, positive aging is a comprehensive concept that includes optimal, successful, productive, and healthy aging. It consists of 5 key factors: health, cognition, activity, affect, and physical fitness, assessed through both objective and subjective indicators. The core idea is that individuals, regardless of age, have some control over their quality of life and can achieve successful aging.
That sounds literally like everything we pretty much talk about on this podcast.
Well, this is the Aging Well podcast.
So Bartour discussed several models, including RIFs, integrated models of psychological well-being that highlight 6 dimensions of positive function: self-acceptance, positive relations, autonomy, environmental mastery, purpose in life, and personal growth. Research indicates these dimensions are influenced by socio-demographic factors and personal experience. Older adults typically show increased positive effect and decreased negative effect with age. Although purpose in life and personal growth may decline, you often suggest that our approach to exercise science is biomechanical psychosocial. So what do you mean by this? And does it apply to aging well?
Well, the phrase is taken from the medical field. Specifically, I first heard it in an interview between Dr. Zubin Damania and Rachel Zofnas, where it was phrased biopsychosocial. When I was discussing this with a biomechanics colleague, Dr. Lex Gidley, she suggested, but no, it's biomechanical psychosocial. I agreed and modified it accordingly. And the point is that our health and well-being are a complex intersection of our biology, kinesiology, psychology, and social relationships. And yes, it applies to aging well.
This is reflected in the Midlife in the U.S., or MIDAS, study findings reported in the paper.
Yes, the MIDAS study findings show that factors like purpose in life, social relationships, and pro-social behaviors predict better health, less disability, and greater well-being in older adults. Resilience in aging is linked to better quality of life and reduced risk of future disability and death.
We've had a few guests on the podcast recently that have underscored this. In episode 150, Anna Hall shared the purpose equation. In episode 142, Arlene Schiff talked about overcoming loneliness and social isolation. In episode 140, Sarah Carbonell asked us to reimagine senior living around social interaction.
In episode 152, Dr. John Neustadt suggested that we add to our list of 5 things that we should do for health and longevity.
In addition to exercise and physical activity, maintaining a healthy body composition, eating a healthy diet, have good sleep hygiene, and of course, not smoking, he added social connectedness.
So the keys to better health, less disability, and greater well-being in older adults are biomechanical, psychosocial.
The paper also implies your model of well-centered fitness, SPIES, as our listener Jay prefers.
As spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social wellness.
I'll refer the listeners to episode 124 if they haven't listened to Spies Like Us.
Neuroscientific evidence suggests psychological well-being impacts physical health and biological regulation. Purposeful engagement, self-realization, and growth positively influence longevity and quality of life. Well-being reduces the risk of diseases in Alzheimer's, stroke, myocardial infarction, with underlying biological mechanisms including neuroendocrine regulation and inflammatory processes.
Positive aging research demonstrates that older adults can optimize their aging experience by maintaining preventative health behaviors, utilizing available resources, and enhancing their well-being. The focus should be on wellness rather than illness in psychological research and interventions for the older population.
That's right, Corbin. So let's jump into our discussion of positive aging. Bartor discusses several strategies to enhance positive aging, or as we would say,
aging well.
Aging well. The first strategy is the comprehensive assessment of the older person's positive health and primary care services in mental health clinics.
So it sounds like more than just a regular checkup. What makes it comprehensive?
Exactly. Traditional checkups often miss the broader context of an individual's life. A comprehensive assessment includes physical, social, cultural, historical, and spiritual aspects. It helps in understanding not just the medical conditions, but the person as a whole. For instance, depression is common among older adults, but it often goes undiagnosed. A holistic approach can help detect and address such issues early on.
Wow, that's really deep. And it makes a lot of sense. It really is biomechanical psychosocial. So how can we promote positive health among seniors?
Great question. And positive health programs encourage seniors to tap into their own resources. This includes improving diet, reducing smoking, or as we would say, eliminate smoking, reducing alcohol consumption, exercising more, and managing stress. These programs can be offered by primary care clinics and community health clubs. Preventative interventions like fall prevention are also crucial.
Oh, okay. So it's about empowering seniors to take control of their health. But what about promoting optimal aging?
Promoting optimal aging, or aging well, involves psychosocial interventions. Studies show that educational and behavioral training can significantly improve mental health. Community-based programs and online training can help seniors develop skills for self-acceptance, autonomy, and social engagement, which are all vital for personal growth and well-being.
It's fascinating how much a positive mindset can influence aging. Speaking of positivity, what do you mean by positive assessment of strength?
I discussed my epigenetics test with True Diagnostic co-founder Hannah Wendt in episode 162. Epigenetic testing measures baseline and changes in your pace of aging, giving you the power to steer your anti-aging or health and wellness journey in the right direction. I learned that I am aging well. Click on the affiliate link in the episode description, use the promo code AGEWELL, and receive a 12% discount on your epigenetics test and monitor your pace of aging. Well, according to the article, instead of focusing in on weakness, professionals should assess and activate an older person's strength and capabilities. This includes personal abilities and support from family and community. Asking questions like, what is good for me? What is still working? Shifts the focus to positive aspects and helps in achieving personal goals.
That's a refreshing perspective. Um, let's talk about positive psychology interventions. How do they help with loneliness and depression?
Well, loneliness is a significant risk factor for both mental and physical health issues. Interventions that enhance social and cognitive engagement can reduce loneliness and its adverse effects. Cognitive behavioral therapy is effective for depression. With the rise of remote mental care, especially post-COVID, these interventions can now be delivered virtually, making them accessible to more and more seniors.
Remote care is definitely here to stay. So, what about changing professional attitude towards aging?
That is crucial. Professionals need to adopt positive views on aging and expand psychological health services for the elderly. Training programs can help medical and care staff understand aging better and promote proactive health measures.
Enhancing a sense of community also seems important. How can we do that?
Encouraging social interactions and community involvement helps reduce isolation and anxiety. Teaching seniors internet skills can also reduce isolation and promote autonomy. Being connected through modern media like social media and online communities can make a big difference.
Your student, Noah, brought this up in episode 143. It seems to be a bit of a theme lately on the Aging Well podcast. Now, tell us about the mental fitness program for positive aging.
Well, according to Bartor, the mental fitness program is a comprehensive journey through various psychological strategies to promote positive aging. It includes sessions on self-acceptance, goal setting, and maintaining positive relationships. Participants engage in group discussions, personal reflections, and practical assignments to foster a positive outlook on aging. It's been successfully implemented in community centers and online.
It sounds like it's a well-rounded program. Are there any limitations?
Yes, the program is best suited for high-functioning individuals and might not be ideal for those with significant cognitive decline. Also, while it's been effective anecdotally, it still needs a formal methodological evaluation to measure its full impact.
Well, group-based interventions seem particularly effective, right?
Absolutely. Group-based and socially integrated interventions have shown to significantly enhance mental health among older adults. They provide a sense of community and support, which is invaluable.
This has been incredibly insightful, Dr. Armstrong. Any final thoughts?
Well, positive aging is about more than just physical health. It's about fostering mental, emotional, and social well-being.
It is biomechanical psychosocial. It is SPIES, or well-centered fitness.
And by adopting these comprehensive strategies, we can help older adults live fuller, happier lives.
And as we often said, aging well begins at conception.
Considering epigenetics, it might begin with the generations that come before us.
Aging well is a complex concept.
It is, but isn't that why we created this podcast? To help people navigate toward positive aging and toward aging well. And of course, I think something we need to consider is, as we look at this article, there's a lot of value in all these community programs and things like that, but if they don't exist, then they're not accessible to the older adults. And I think that's probably one of the biggest limitations to aging well, is that we're not taking this proactive approach to aging well. And we need much more community involvement. We need the government, rather than focusing in on the reactive response to aging well and to healthcare, we need to be taking a much more proactive approach. And I did see something recently where the Congress has kind of passed a bill. It's now upon the Senate to try and get the budgeting operations within the U.S. government to look beyond just 10 years of benefit and start looking at what are some of these long-term benefits that we can get from our spending rather than limiting it to 10 years, which if that passes and hopefully they take a better approach and just don't look at some of the smaller scale things that we can do with improving healthcare, more preventative health, we could take a better long-term approach and we can look at what are these things that we are doing, even back in like high schools and PE and, physical activity and sports performance and all those kind of things. What impact is that having as we move into each of the, subsequent ages as we move toward, eventually fourth age?
Man, that's a really deep question. I don't know. I like we've said, it starts with conception and every step that we do from that point on, it affects our overall well-being and our overall health, whether it be, our physical, like with exercise, whether it be nutrition, whether it be that psychosocial, how you interact with individuals or how individuals or your environment interacts with you. What's that going to prep you for mentally, emotionally, even spiritually? I think there's a huge spiritual aspect, which I feel like that wasn't necessarily mentioned in this study, but it goes a long way as far as one who wants to age well. And man, you asked a really deep question. And I don't necessarily know what it is that we can do, because I feel currently the situation that, say, governments have placed people in, it's almost as if people need to just kind of take back control of their own lives and just do what they need to do in order to age well.
Well, and that's an easy thing to say. People just take it back. It's like when we talk about obesity, it's like, well, why don't you just exercise? Why don't you just, cut calories and lose weight? But there are far more challenges that are out there that, it's pretty easy to, and it's part of this podcast is we say these things to do, but when it comes to actually being able to do them, there are a lot of limitations that can interfere with that. And that's one of the things, I think in a future podcast, I'm trying to get on one of my colleagues, Dan Dowhauer. Dr. Dowhauer teaches social determinants of health at Western Oregon University and has some really good insights into, what are some of the things that are really affecting our ability to access many of these opportunities that we talk about on here. I mean, we've talked on podcasts about different foods that we should eat, not eat. We talk about exercising regularly, but if you live in a community where you can access physical activity, then it's next to impossible to be able to get healthier and lose body weight and add muscle mass. So when we're looking at how do we implement these positive programs and try and encourage positive aging, there's many things that we have to consider. One is physicians need to kind of alter their approach to how they interact with their patients. They can't just look at patients and say, well, and hear this a lot with physicians. It's like, well, you got this going on, but, we can expect that with age. Well, I don't believe that we can necessarily expect a specific decline in age. Yes, that's how it normally happens because people are more inactive, but we need to take that approach. This does not have to be what aging is all about. We don't need to, and I think I've mentioned in previous podcasts how when I looked at the norms in my exercise testing and prescription class, we were talking about, hey, look, if I was 20 years old and I was benching my body weight, I would be in the poor category of fitness. But now at 61, being able to bench my body weight, I'm like a superhuman. And it shouldn't be that way. And so that's one aspect we have to look at is like aging doesn't have to be this more rapid decline through third age to fourth age and have this very prolonged period of fourth age where we're dependent upon Medicare and healthcare to keep us going. And, we have to have, countless drugs. And we've talked on a couple of different episodes. We talked with the Klianskis, we talked with Dr. Neustadt about how many of these drugs that are being prescribed for the aging population are drugs that are fueling osteoporosis and fueling all forms of dementia. And so we have to get away from this, well, we'll just prescribe medication to treat these things. We have to be focused on what can we do on the front end from conception, and even as we're looking forward into other generations. I have kids. I don't have grandkids yet. I have people in my generation plenty of people in my generation have grandkids. What I'm doing now has an impact on the lifestyles that my kids will have, how they're going to, what kind of nutritional or dietary habits they're going to have, exercise habits. That's going to carry over to them, going to carry over to their children, how my kids interact with the school systems, or how I push the school systems to affect behavior, diet. School diets suck. PE in schools has gone downhill dramatically to the point where my kids' high school, they don't even call it PE anymore. It's called wellness, and we're seeing these changes in our society that tend to foster more negative aging as opposed to positive aging.
So it's almost like it's feeding that medical beast that's feeding that elderly population those pills that are doing more damage than good, when in reality, if you just stick to the basics or get in the mindset of, like you said, it's just a simple mindset change. You're in the bracket where you're a superhuman for lifting weights and your age
and I
bracket.
laugh at that.
But in reality, it's, well, why can't people lift that weight at that age? Why is that the mindset that you're not able to do that? And I think you actually called me out on that in one of our previous podcasts, because I was like, yeah, but an elderly person shouldn't be able. You're like, but why? And
remember, we're not supposed to use that word elderly.
Well, okay, someone in the third age or fourth age, why can't they? And I started thinking, it's like, you're right. Why can't we? Why do we put people in that age bracket? Because it's almost like it's in a roundabout way. It's a form of discrimination, but it's a mindset, and it helps us grow. And speaking of growth, if we go back to Bartu's, the 6 dimensions, it starts off with self-acceptance and it ends with personal growth. And I think that's really important, that if you have self-acceptance, say, oh man, I'm out of shape or I'm weak. Okay. Through that personal growth, you don't have to identify as weak or frail or elderly or whatever the case may be. How do you become out of it? How do you get out? I'm this way now, but I don't always have to be this way. My strength is not up to where I want it to be, but how do I become stronger? My flexibility, is very, very non-existent, but how do I become more limber and have balance? And through that self-acceptance, I think as you go through those 6 dimensions, you put yourself into positive relationships. Am I surrounding myself with people that are like-minded, that are going to encourage me of achieving my goals, or are they going to break me down? And then you go into autonomy. Well, through my work, I've just taken a leadership class, and they say the number one source of inspiration or encouragement is to have an individual have autonomy, right? If they figure out that they are self-efficient and they can do things their own way in order to make sure the goals are getting done, people want to work harder. People want to push it. And by doing that, it dives right into the next category, which is environmental mastery, right? It doesn't matter what their environment brings. That excuse becomes non-existent. Okay, this is the situation I am in. This is the cards that I'm given, but I'm going to overcome this, right? How do I build an empire with the tools that I'm given? How do I create or get out of this environment and go into a better one that's going to make me hit those goals? And then it dives right into purpose of life, and you find out who you are as an individual, and you find out your skill set, and you find your purpose of life. And it goes into that growth of what was once self-acceptance of, hey, I'm not where I need to be. But then you had that personal growth of, hey, I got there. It's really cool that how much a positive mindset can have on those factors.
And Rife's integrated model of psychological well-being, those 6 dimensions you just mentioned, was originally titled Successful Aging. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that, when Bartor talks about this idea of, the aging adult tapping into their own resources, we have to understand that a lot of people don't understand how to do that. And they also don't really have the resources sometimes. And so it is kind of important to understand that these dimensions are influenced by socio-demographics and personal experiences. And sometimes people's personal experiences with aging, maybe you have had grandparents that were very sedentary and they declined very rapidly and they spend years and years of poor health. And we just expect that, when I'm in my 80s, that's how I have to be. I'm going to be slow and I'm going to have major health issues and I'm going to have 20 different bottles of pills in my medicine cabinet. And that's just normal aging. And it's not normal aging. And I personally don't want to age normally. And I feel like where I'm at right now at 61, I'm probably what I would consider to be on the average level. This is where average aging should be at 61. I'm not extraordinary. There are many, many people out there that I think are aging better than me, and I aspire to age better than them. But, again, it's taking the steps. What are the resources that I have available to me? What are the steps that I can do? And bit by bit, I'm starting to absorb a lot of these different ideas and practices that we've brought in from some of our tremendous guests. I'm starting to wear my Garmin watch to track my sleep, track my stress levels, so taking Dr. Farrow's advice and doing that. And, I'm starting to get some good insights into what I need to do differently. And this morning I woke up having had a really poor night's sleep. I'm not quite sure why, because it was the night before any different than, last night. But what steps can I take to get better sleep? What can I do to improve my exercise within my resources? And if I can't access adequate exercise because my community doesn't offer those things or it's not accessible to me, I live in maybe a high crime area and going outside is just next to impossible, or there's weather issues, then there's a certain community responsibility. And I think a responsibility of our governments to create environments that make it much more accessible for people to have healthier behaviors and to be more active and to promote activity and try and discourage inactivity. And then, as we look at nutrition, what food sources do we have around? A lot of people say, well, eating healthy is expensive. No, it's not. It's not, but you have to know what is accessible to you, what is healthy, and what fits within your budget. Yeah, you can spend a lot of money eating healthy, but you can also do it very inexpensively. And I think we have a responsibility on this podcast to continually trying to bring to the forefront many of those different practices that we can do, try and push our communities, our governments to be making changes that will make aging well more accessible to the population as a whole.
And I don't really think that's that difficult of a thing to do. If you look at a lot of local governments, budgets and stuff, I really do think it is a possibility. I think it can be as simple as maybe Parks and Rec department, not only having their rec centers available, but when I used to work for Parks and Rec, we used to do this thing called Fitness in the Park. And so all the personal trainers that taught classes in the rec centers would go out to the local parks and we would just teach these free classes or free boot camps, and they were totally free and available. And it was just a way to build that relationship with the community. But there's also, through some of those parks areas in certain neighborhoods around the Portland metro area where we live, there are there are some parks that they're designed to be almost like an outdoor gym. And that's something really simple. And then on top of that, being a state employee, when I first got hired on, they used to actually really promote a healthy lifestyle. In fact, if you were a state employee, as long as you would go to a gym for 20 days out of the month, they would actually, you could sign up for a program and they would give you, I think it was like 50 or $60. Well, that's a gym membership. They're paying you to go to the gym, essentially. And it was really cool. And then eventually they just kind of got rid of that program. And I've noticed since they've gotten rid of that program, not a lot of people are going to the gym as often as they once were. And,
Well, it's easy to say too, go to the gym, but people don't know what to do at the gym.
That's true.
And, if the gyms aren't as welcoming to them, and that's not saying that gyms, are excluding people, but just, the fit isn't always right for individuals, so the local gym may not be quite the right type of gym. We have to be taking steps, not only just say, here's the opportunity, but we have to aid in overcoming any of the obstacles that might prevent that aging individual or that period individual, because we're all aging. From the moment we're born, we're aging. And we have to consider what are the obstacles. And if you really look at what we're doing as a society, we are much more inclined to, excuse the obstacle and just say, oh, well, that person can't do this for this reason, and we just got to let go of that, rather than what can we do to remove this obstacle for this individual, or what can we do to strengthen their resolve to lift themselves over that obstacle. So there's a very multifaceted approach that needs to be had to aging well. And it's not just going to be simply telling people what to do. We have to help them get there, and we have to have a place for them to go to get there. So it's not just as simple as putting interventions in place. We have to make sure those interventions are accessible to all individuals.
Right. Well, and then to go with that, there are certain opportunities for individuals who have a job and they're blessed to actually have health benefits. A lot of places that offer health benefits, not everyone, not everywhere, but some will, there's bonus benefits on top of just your normal medical, dental. If you actually dive a little deeper, some will offer health plans, or not health plans, dietary plans. And some will offer little home workouts or exercises, or some will offer discounts on meetup groups. I know that sounds silly, but a lot of people are unaware that those are a part of their actual medical benefit package. And again, that's probably not going to be for everyone, but there are those opportunities that are out there. And I would encourage people to, if you are fortunate enough to work at a place where you have a benefits package, medical benefits, dive into it a little deeper and see if you are one of the fortunate ones that have that opportunity.
And I would be looking closely at what those opportunities really are, because my experience with a lot of them is they're very superficial and only effective for the people who are in most dire need of them, and they're not effective enough to really, really have a strong impact on our health. I do encourage people to kind of look at what benefits are available to them, but I think we also have to take a look at the healthcare system in this country and what is it doing for overall preventative health. Even just kind of reading through a little bit of the information regarding the bill that those doctors, the senators and congressmen are promoting, they're really not talking about things that are significantly preventative. I mean, they talk more about the benefits of health, regulations to require helmets and some of those kind of things, and are not looking at, maybe we need to fund projects in our communities. If the communities are getting government funding for certain programs, these should be programs that are going to have a long-term benefit on one's health. We put a lot of money into some really stupid things in our communities because we get government grants for them and all that, but there's nothing tying that to aging well. And so I'm going to push a little bit harder to get Dr. Dalhauer on the podcast and get him interviewed, and see if we can't kind of tease out some of these things we've been talking about with some of the social determinants of aging well and how we can promote better lifestyles, better communities to have more positive aging.
All right. Well, I think that this was a pretty good discussion. I really like the fact that everything that we kind of talk about in the podcast, they're actually concepts that a lot of psychologists and other medical doctors utilize in order to have an individual age well. So I think that's pretty cool. Hopefully this was inspiration to you as our listeners, and always, always, always make the right steps to move forward and age well.
Age well. Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast, and until next time, keep aging well.